There is a condition of approval that we would recommend adding, given that the trip generation figures were generated based on the assumption that the Emery-Go-Round shuttle serves this complex. And so we would recommend that the standard requirement of participation in the Emery-Go-Round shuttle be added so that the applicant shall, with respect to the project, participate in the Emeryville TMA, a private nonprofit agency responsible for administering the Emery-Go-Round, a transportation service system serving the city, and the members participating in the TMA. The applicant agrees to remain a member of the TMA so long as the TMA or its successors or assignee is in fact operating the Emery-Go-Round, and that the applicant shall execute a membership agreement as required in accordance with the policies, rules, and regulations of the TMA in effect from time to time.
Did you read that off the top of your head?
Of course.
Are you all familiar with that?
What about the applicant's demand that its fees not exceed the square footage pro rata fair share?
That would be applicable to the other buildings in the Watergate office complex, but not to the project.
Could the applicant comment one way or the other, please?
Yeah, the concept was simply that we don't have a problem becoming a participant of the TMA. Right now, we're a voluntary participant in the TMA. It's Emery-Go-Round service is a very important amenity for the complex, and it's entirely our plan to participate to our pro rata share with this new project. The concept that was raised in our discussion on the development agreement was very simply that it certainly is reasonable that we would pay our equitable share of the costs. Right now, Commissioner Getz, as you might know, the way it's calculated is based upon square footage. And I believe the way it was drafted is that was as an example. We don't necessarily need to be locked into a square footage requirement, but it's simply provided that it's a equitable pro rata sharing of the cost, then we're very happy to be a part of it.
And that would continue to be the case as to the participation for your other buildings. That certainly, if you felt that that was no longer an equitable assessment among the members, that you would have the ability to withdraw as to your 3 existing buildings. But as to this project, given that the trip generation was determined based on the Emery-Go-Round shuttle being in place.
Jeff White with Speaker Properties. It's a detail in the traffic report, but if you read it closely, you'll note that while the benefits of the Emery-Go-Round were documented, they weren't considered in the actual analysis.
My understanding is that they were considered in your baseline for the underlying
If you want to show, I'm not
project.
sure if we want to get into that right now, but if you want to show me where that is in the traffic report, that I'd be interested, because I'm very familiar with what went into that, and I specifically know that we did not take advantage of the benefits. We were calculating our impact based on really no Emery-Go-Round.
Right, but that was for the new trip generation. The baseline traffic was counted actual, which assumes or actually counted or measured that there was a substantial benefit accruing to air quality and to the peninsula because of the participation from this office building in the Emery-Go-Round. So all we're trying to do is maintain that over time.
No, yeah, that's true, but I don't, it's a new item. I'm not sure that it was considered in the baseline either.
And maybe I can shed some light, because I was talking to John on the development agreement, and their concerns, this is sort of tied into the development agreement because the Emery-Go-Round is shown in both places. Right. What at least I learned late this evening was that I think our staff believes that the Emery-Go-Round was included in the traffic analysis. Now, there may be some debate on that, and as a result of that, it's important that we use our standard language for the Emery-Go-Round for the project, the fourth tower. And that's what is being asked of you right now in the conditions of approval, is to put their standard language in the conditions of approval for this project. And what that is, I think we all know, is that there's 7, 8, or 9 members. Each of them are voting members on the TMA, and they're the ones that determine what the costs are. Speaker has a concern, and I think they can, I mean, it seems like several developers have concerns. They don't seem to trust each other, but they're feeling that somebody might say that, oh, Speaker, because so many people use it, you should be paying a different proportional amount. And that's what the language in the development agreement does to those 3 towers that are not subject of this project. It's basically the other towers that are there now. But for this tower, what is being suggested is that the standard language for the TMA be included if they build the 4th tower. And that even if it is unfair, we hope that it would never happen, that Speaker would be responsible only for that one building, the 4th tower that's being built now.
4th or 5th towers.
Well, first, it's on page 12, the reference to the existing conditions, but it seems to me that Speaker should be given extra brownie points and bonuses for its disproportionately great use, and therefore its contribution to high occupancy and great records for public use of the Emery go-round.
I agree with that.
Conversely, it seems to me that if for some reason Speaker at a future date decides that the allocation of cost is unfair or disproportionate because it's being made on the basis of ridership or something else that penalizes Speaker, and it subsequently withdraws its 3 other buildings from the TMA, the stop will still remain at the new building, and Speaker will thereafter be getting a free ride as to its other properties and will be getting a much cheaper deal. And so it seems to me it's not going to be a problem in the real world, because all you have to do is withdraw your other properties and base your fee on the ridership of the one building, and you get a stop that serves all the buildings. And so there's no enforceability of this, because they can just, in effect, cheat their way out of it, which is fine, which is proper.
Oh, that's a great logic. I love it.
You may lose a palm tree.
lose a lot of palm trees. I think our only thought to that is that, quite simply, it should, I don't think anybody would disagree, it should be based upon a pro rata share, there should be a fair distribution of these costs. And we simply believe that there should be a mechanism for all of the buildings that it should be counted as such. And if that means that our contribution goes up because our ridership is high, I think that's entirely fair, and it should go up. But there should still be that fairness standard for the new project. And to take that out seems, the gamesmanship shouldn't happen. And there is still a possibility that the people who vote say, okay, well, it's going to be 99% of the cost is going to be now for that one building, since you've elected to get out on these other buildings, and that's what's going to be, and you're in default of the development agreement if. So I think it's the way it was drafted and the way it's in front of you right now is entirely appropriate, and is simply a fair share arrangement.
Thank you.
should
I'm
know
okay.
we don't have any control. The city has no control over the TMA and whatever formula they use, other than the voting members. We are a voting member, so we have 1 of 8 or 9 votes, 10 votes.
I'm comfortable with the Assistant City Attorney's language as long as it's clarified to make it clear that it applies, that the requirement in spite of a standard of fairness apply only to the subject new buildings. I didn't hear it very clearly when you read it the first time around, but maybe it was there.
Yeah,
It was, okay.
And I'll apologize to John because I have not mentioned this, and because it just came up really this afternoon. I don't think it impacts you at all, John.
Yeah, I just think well,
If anything,
think
it's
we ought
to
to
the
keep
advantage, I think, that Andy was saying. It might be to your advantage.
yeah. So is the conclusion that the fairness standard is drafted and the original agreement will stay as?
And as it applies to the new to the existing buildings.
But it will not apply to the new building.
No, you will be obligated to provide TMA as long as there is a TMA for the new building.
But there will be no equitable sharing then of the costs, or can we would like to have that standard, that fairness standard put in addition.
You can put that in, but I think you can't get out of the TMA if it's unfair, because it's going to be your determination that it's unfair. I mean, that's what the concern, I
But why
think,
would
is.
it be unfair? What makes you think that the other voting members wouldn't?
Nothing in,
That's Mr. That's Mr. Winter.
I'm not quite sure I understand your argument.
actually,
Or your
interestingly
concern.
enough, IKEA also
the
felt
same
that other
concern.
people would gang up on them, and they wanted
The deep
a
pockets, so to
way to
speak, yeah.
Right.
get out of it, and in that situation, we said, no, you are a member of it, as long as it exists, and there's a mechanism among the 12 members, or however many members of the TMA, to resolve your disputes, and nothing to suggest that 11 are going to gang up on one, and anyhow, IKEA thinks it's going to be them, not you, so I don't know if you
Right.
find any comfort in that.
Probably not.
Okay, so you're saying you will not allow for a
Backing
fair
out.
sharing standard?
At this point, no, that's not how it's drafted.
Commissioner Owens, did you have a question?
No, I'm just wondering, why would this group of 12 people not allocate this based on everybody's square footage? I mean, how else do you allocate it if not based on the
And
square
that's
footage?
how they have done it in the
Yeah.
past. I
Yeah.
think what Mr. Winter's saying is that it may change in the future.
Yeah, I think right now, it's a fair sharing of it, because, and people can elect to come or go as they choose. And I'm not suggesting that we're trying to game this. As I said before, this is a wonderful amenity to our project, and we want it to be there. And we're very happy to pay our fair share. And if you want to add more teeth to the fair share language, we'd be very happy to see it in there. It's just, one loses when one can't get up and walk away from the table. The whole fairness issue sometimes.
Another approach would be to say that if you chose to no longer participate in the TMA, that you would institute your own shuttle
service.
that would operate.
We will do that.
And
We would
put
agree to
that
do
as a
that.
condition of approval.
That's fine.
In the,
Yeah, we actually used to, or not we, the prior ownership did.
Right.
The Emery ground service is
I
a
presume you
better
know the history.
service. It's a much better solution. I think that actually would be a good mechanism, because it's going to be more costly for us to operate our own service, and there'll be more.
So that the condition of approval would read that if it was no longer a pro rata equitable apportionment, and you then were no longer a member of the TMA, that you would institute your own shuttle providing identical service Monday through Friday. From
Monday
your-
through when?
Monday through Friday, because
Mhm.
isn't that what your,
Doesn't
your
it run on
apportionment to the
Saturday?
Right.
TMA is
They don't
not
care
to
about
date
weekends.
preserved.
No,
No,
Wednesday.
they shouldn't be held to weekends.
Well, before we go, I do have one thing to say. The first thing is that, there's the concept of shared responsibility, and we can go to Watergate and say, okay, here we've got a gym that everybody pays for, but not everybody uses. That's number one. And number two, one of the things that should be happening, if we're going to put this kind of thing in, before we just say, okay, you can leave, I think there is a point here where all of the members should be talking to each other, right, and getting together and mediating any of these disputes. So if we're going to do this kind of language, then there should be a mediation process that needs to be gone through before there's a termination that you want to terminate your participation in this. My thought process is, I think we're trying to fix something that isn't broken. I don't think that we're going to have any problems here, and I would much rather leave things as they are, and if they approach it, I think reasonable people can get around it. Now, that's just my thought process.
And to follow up on the last point, if this new building and/or hotel is only going to be used Monday through Friday, then okay. But if the Emery Grow-Round is currently Monday through Saturday, then I think if the shuttle service gets replaced, then it should be Monday through Saturday or Sunday. It's through Saturday, okay? And if it makes the loop down there, I don't know if it makes the loop down there or not on Saturdays.
I don't either.
But if it does, what I'm saying is, it should be like service. That's what you're
Right,
saying you're
if
going to
the-
do.
if the base
It should be
load-
like service. And so I wouldn't put Monday through, because I believe people will be going there on the weekends, and we're part of what we're trying to do here is encourage public transit. And that's how you're going to have to do it. And hopefully it also would stop at the Amtrak station. It's not just BART, it's Amtrak, AC Transit, right?
Yeah, again, we think it's a very low probability there's going to be a problem here.
Right,
But
we're probably talking
yeah, exactly.
more than it will happen.
It's going to be so painful for us to go back to operating the old way. And this is such a wonderful amenity. I don't know if you've been out there, but we spent a lot of money to build a really nice bus shelter right as you drive in, because we think it's such a great amenity that we feel that's one of the major selling points to the complex now.
So how about instead of all the convoluted gobbledygook, you just put something, if for some reason that speaker no longer wishes to participate in the TMA, they shall create a duplicate shuttle service servicing their facility.
It's fine.
I don't know how comfortable I am with that. I agree with Commissioner Letts. I mean, this is something that the community shares. We can't have
But it's not controlled by the city. I think we're trying to put them into something that is a private entity.
That's right.
And I think we're going to get on slippery slope real fast. It's not a city entity.
As soon as IKEA joins, it's going to want the contributions to be indexed to ridership. Not to square footage or employees or any of that sort of thing. They're going to want to do to ridership,
on
because
that-
nobody takes public transit to a furniture store. And so,
But it's only one vote out of 12, so it's
Exactly
a
right.
democratic process, so they will
13 or
get
14.
nowhere with that, so it's irrelevant.
I-
They end
Well-
up paying for other people, because nobody will ever take the bus to go to a furniture store, like you said.
It's
So
just-
they
We
pay
may
their
be
fair
right,
share
but we're
and
talking
they'll
about
put it-
the operations of some other board that I would say we don't know about. I hate to say it, I probably know the most about it because of a long time ago, but most recently, I don't know how that board's working, and I don't know if Speaker's a member of it or
Anybody
not.
else in there
Yeah.
is a
Well, if
developer
you
just
know
like
about
you.
it more than
Yeah.
we do,
Right.
how the board works.
I think, again, what's important is that there's a powerful economic disincentive for us to discontinue being a member of the TMA, and I think with what you've proposed, that's in place. And that we simply want to be sure that everybody's going to be fair around the table, and I think this will allow us to make sure of that.
And
Okay.
we're not the ones that are controlling that, remember?
Right. So let me ask the question. The condition as read by the Assistant City Attorney with the addition of, if sometime in the future, Speaker or the applicant and successors decide to withdraw from it, they'll have to provide like service for their properties.
But that would only be able to withdraw if it was no longer a pro rata equitable apportionment of costs?
That's fair.
What does that mean?
really,
Are we going to take them to
that
court?
means trial lawyers.
Are we going to take them to court?
But I mean, what difference does it make? It's not going to happen.
Right.
And if it
Whatever you
does, they'll have their own bus, so there'll be no additional traffic impact. So, so what's the down on this for us?
I mean, if-
Because it's much more expensive for them to hire their own service, so they'll work
Right.
it out.
Here's my argument against putting it in there, is are we going to sit there at some point in the future and they say, okay, it's no longer fair share pro rata, they've done something and we don't like it, and we're going to institute our own bus service. Are we really going to argue and take them to court about whether it was fair or not? Or are we going to say, okay, make sure you have a darn good service, cleaned up my language, a darn good service, and it has to operate during these hours, et cetera, because that says, a like service. It doesn't make a left turn on, oh, never mind.
Well, if you're going to do that, then you
Gets
need to
right.
say something about equal
Gets right.
frequency as of the time of speaker's withdrawal or something like that, frequency of service
Yeah,
and that
like
kind of stuff.
services, but
Is
you can
like
boot-
service clear enough as to frequency, hours, days, that sort of thing?
We can go back to the tapes of the June 10th, 1999 Planning Commission meeting where we talked for 15 minutes about the issue.
Do we want to make sure that the shuttle has black walls instead of white walls, too?
Yeah, you're right, okay, I'm through.
Sorry.
The policy question here is that we're opening up
Yes.
the box for other developers to take
This
this
is the
path. I
third
mean, this
time
is
we've
the-
had this dispute in these chambers.
Right, Pixar, IKEA, speaker.
Right.
Because we're going to have it with everybody, so we need to be consistent.
Well,
And in the previous two cases, it was you remain a member.
That's right.
Exactly right.
That's right.
And what we would be saying in this case is you will always remain a member as to your building 4 or building 4 and 5. Under the development agreement, as to your other 3 buildings, you would have a way to no longer be involved in the TMA
Okay.
if you felt they weren't apportioned.
Unfair.
Let me pull it back. Okay, planning commissioners, they're absolutely right. What are we going to do? Are we going to start giving people an out so they can provide their own shuttle service, or are we going to say we're going to hold to our standard?
I think we hold.
Okay.
I agree with Commissioner
So
Lutz.
for the new building,
I'd vote for alternate service if it's clearly equal.
And then if it's not clearly equal, if they skip every time, what do we do with that?
yeah, I mean, it's,
So it sounds like I've got 3 people so far saying 4. Ms. Balangero, do you want to nod or up and down? We've got 4. We're getting to a consensus. Okay, we're going to hold the standard language, it would seem.
okay.
We're holding the standard language.
For
We're
the
there.
new buildings.
For the new buildings. That's correct. What number is that going to be, please? Is
That's
that,
going to be, I think, B,
See?
well, it would be under transportation improvements. It would be,
it's always nice to give
Six.
applicants language at the
6C.
meeting.
Okay. There is a B.
Sorry, where are we at?
No, it's B.
We were on page 12.
So if you page 12, it'd be 6C.
Just C, okay.
Okay,
Roman
so-
numeral 6C. No, it's Roman numeral 6C is the condition that.
That we
the-
added about the
that we added.
TMA.
As a matter of fact, for clarity, Lynn, would you please go ahead and read it one more time?
Can I ask one question first? What do
Nope.
you do about the about the language which says that if there's inconsistency between these conditions and the development agreement prevails?
We will revise the development agreement, yeah.
Before it hits the city council, they have to.
So that 6C would read, the applicant shall, with respect to the project, participate in the Emeryville Transportation Management Association, the TMA, a private nonprofit agency responsible for administering the Emery-Go-Round, a transportation service system serving the city and the members participating in the TMA. The applicant agrees to remain a member of the TMA so long as the TMA or its successor or assignee is in fact operating the Emery-Go-Round. Applicant shall execute a membership agreement as required in accordance with the policies, rules, and regulations of the TMA in effect from time to time, which I believe is the standard language.
Okay. Design conditions and site standards.